All I could think of when I was watching this movie, it would be really terrible to blow a guy who had an ice cold dick. After the movie, Caroline and I went to the freezer and we held the ice cube tray and thought about if a person felt like that. And we were like, that's not sexy.
Okay, well, this took a nosedive really quickly, but before we go any deeper, my name is George, with me is Chris, and today we are talking about the 2008 Twilight.
So, I can't bring myself to regret the decision to leave home. I would miss my loving, erratic, harebrained mother.
I was also very confused by this opening narration because it goes as follows. I'd never given much thought to how I would die, but dying in place of someone I love seems like a good way to go. I can't bring myself to regret the decisions that brought me face to face with death. They also brought me to Edward. Now, I may have been paying more attention to some parts of this movie than others, but is there a part in this movie where she dies in the place of someone she loves?
Not
That's
really.
Not a,
she
that's not
nearly
in the plot.
dies, but
She
yeah.
nearly dies, but not in the place of someone she loves. She just kind of gets her ass kicked in an unrelated scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it also like it's a very boring way to open the movie because like, you know, Kissing Booth, yeah, same thing, had like narrations in every one of the movies, but at least it's paired with a montage. This is just her holding a cactus. That's literally how it opens.
I was at Simone's house actually, and I opened up Twilight and I read the first page and I bailed based on that, but I think it was like the same opening.
Oh, okay.
Port Angeles? You mind if I come?
Yeah, I need your opinion.
Is her character the ultimate I'm not like other girls girl?
I was there's some brutal not like other girls moments in this movie. There's this part where she's with her friends and they're trying on dresses. They all like go together to try on dresses and she just wants to go to a bookstore. But instead of just going to get the book, she just like sits there and like sighs and rolls her eyes while they're trying on dresses until finally they have to be like, you're not like enjoying the dress thing, are you? And she's like, no, I'd rather be at the bookstore.
She has to make everyone else
like,
go
well,
with
fuck
her.
you. Yeah, why don't you just go to the bookstore? I was pretty impressed with the like teen dynamics in the early sequences where she like makes friends at school. There's of course the classic guy that is in every high school movie. I can't imagine that this person exists in real life anywhere. The person that just like meets new kids and is like, hey, I'm gonna take you all around the school and show you the different cliques and tell you all the ins and outs of everything. I don't think that ever happens in real life.
Audience, please tell us, has anyone ever met anybody like that in any school? I've been to like
You started
4
a new
different
school
schools.
and
Yeah, I've never met anyone like that. I'm pretty sure if that person exists, they would be really hated.
We have the coffee kids.
That was Costa Rican, butthead.
Very edgy. Don't make any sudden movements around me. These delusionals are your white Rastas?
because this movie is a not like other girls movie at its core, because it's like the sexy abstinence movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the erotic romance movie where they don't have sex. That's like the core of this movie, and all the other aspects of like the way that she's different from people around her, to me, all lead directly back to that. I do think like there's like a strength of character that is required to stand to a belief like that is like very unusual to a lot of the people around you, or doesn't like line up with a lot of the people around you. Now that's all subtext in the movie. I think like the movie's not totally like out about how it's an abstinence, sexy abstinence.
Do you think that's actually
thing.
the subtext, or do you think we're just reading too much into it?
Of the movie where he wants to put his fangs in her, but he's worried about putting it in her because if he does, he'll get excited and maybe go all the way in her, and then she'll not be what she is anymore and turn into a different state. I don't know how important her research was. Like, she does the whole research thing. She does all this detective work about like cold hands and stuff. And then we're paused on the frame now of the Cullens first walking in, and I was like, I think the main tip-off as to them being vampires is that they look and act exactly like vampires the entire time.
Yeah, because like it also in this movie, in this world, because she does the research, a vampire does exist in terms of like a cultural idea.
Right.
It's unlike, for example, with a lot of older zombie movies, when zombies show up, everyone's all surprised as if they've never heard.
Yeah,
of
what
them
the hell
before.
is a zombie? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in this world, they clearly exist. So then when the vampires dress and behave like vampires,
Caroline called this movie out, and I think she got him dead to rights. She was like, where is a worse place to hide than around a bunch of high school girls? Who is more likely to, like, posit and spread rumors and genuinely believe that someone is a vampire
Yeah.
than a bunch of 13-year-old kids?
He looks like he's ready to shit himself.
It's a very poorly... So I guess this is the scene in the book, and this would work in a book, right? Because
Yeah.
it's smell. That works in a book. You can write about smell. In a movie, maybe I'm the idiot, but when I see someone smelling, I only think about farts. And I ended up thinking about farts a lot in this movie, because the whole last third is the evil vampire tracking them by smell. And he's just over and over huffing farts in the forest.
You know what movie about smell and has portrayed it really well? And that's what they should have done because it came out around the same time. The movie Perfume.
Perfume.
Yeah,
right
because
there with you.
because what they did is they did close-ups, extreme close-ups of the nose, and then immediately cut to like the object of the smell, whether it's good or bad. If it's scent, because what they did in that movie was, if I remember correctly, they would go like close-up of some flowers, extreme close-ups of flowers, and then cut to a person's nose, and then it would cut to another person's mouth gasping in a like pleasurable way. And
Right.
those three images back to back was sufficient enough to make you go, okay, this person just smells something really fragrant and wonderful.
It's just like a very, I don't know, or maybe it's because it's just such like an insecure spot for I think most humans. But like the idea of you going and you stand in front of a fan and the fan blows your smell over to someone and then they're just like visibly repulsed. It's like a very like it's gross. It makes the start of the movie kind of gross.
Yeah, it is.
You shouldn't be thinking about armpits and BO.
But maybe
And-
that is a thing that the movie I'm not going to say they intentionally hit upon that. I'm going to say it's accidentally hit upon the insecurity of teenagers.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of when you learn that, oh yeah, BO is a thing when you're a teen, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It just doesn't seem sexy. But then it turns out she smells wonderful, and that fear is turned into like a wonderful thing. So maybe you're totally right. Maybe some academic somewhere needs to write an essay on
unintentional,
the mechanics of body odor in Twilight.
I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to introduce myself last week. I'm Edward Cullen. You're Bella?
For a creature that's like a century old, he's terrible at concealing what he is and who he is. You're telling me that you've been around for like an entire century or more, and you can't control your physical reaction to someone that smells nice? He's also like woefully unprepared for any questions, because I'm gonna jump forward a little bit when they go on their dinner date. Now, there's so many questions I have for this scene. First of all, if you can't eat, why the fuck would you choose a dinner date? Of all possible things. Again, a century of existence. You can't come up with at least a dozen ideas where you don't have to answer any questions.
Every single other date of theirs, by the way, does not involve food.
Yeah,
Just a situation he put himself in on the first date.
exactly. And when he does get asked the question of why don't you eat any food, he literally just gets flustered and couldn't come up with an answer. He just went, oh, it's a diet that I'm on. You had a century to prepare for answers.
This is why they moved to Forks. They've stayed like 2 months in every place, and then Edward fucks it up for everybody. Earlier, where his eyes are a different color because he's a vampire, and she's like, "Did you get contacts?" And he's like, "No." You're right. He's totally unprepared.
No, they're so
To hide.
woefully unprepared, yeah.
His vampire nature, even from the exact people that he's chosen to spend time with, high school kids.
Yeah.
He's 100 and something, and he can't outwit teenagers.
What did you expect? Coffins and dungeons and moats?
No, not the most.
Okay, I would do what they did. I would have a glass house in the woods in somewhere awesome like Washington or BC or somewhere remote, and then I just wouldn't talk to people. That's the only change.
Yeah.
I'd go to the bar, hang out with some of the people in town sometimes, figure out who has some interesting chemistry with you and is fun to talk about. But like, they've got a few vampires to hang out with. If they get bored, they can make more vampires.
Yeah.
I don't understand Why, like,
Why high school? Yeah, like you're right. Like especially for these guys, if you know, in 2008 they're already over a century old, so that means they could easily establish themselves as like old money. You know, just
Yes.
like real old money rich, and just be the reclusive, eccentric billionaire heir that no one's ever heard of, because there are those in the world.
yes.
They just like they live on
then
private
maybe,
islands.
you
They
know-
never interact with anybody else because they don't need to.
Another thing you could do is like try to make the world better. If
That
you were
too.
immortal and wealthy, you could like try to help someone with something.
Yeah,
I don't know, have a pet project, or make some money and try to influence things in a good way, or like just do anything but well, I was gonna say bang high school teens, but not bang high school teens. Maybe it would be a nice use of your time. You know, find a hobby. We see him play piano. He sucks at it. I guess he doesn't put much time in over
Yeah.
the last 100 years.
If I am immortal, if I discover that I am immortal, I think the first thing I would do is probably try to make the planet more pleasurable to live in, because I have to be here forever.
Yeah, who should be more worried about climate change than vampires? Not only do they have to deal with it the most, but it's the thing that's gonna make them sparkle the most.
Yeah.
Like it's even their issue.
Yeah, that's true. Which reminds me, if you're interested in listening to the full-length discussion of this episode, you can find it on our Patreon. The link is on screen and in the description down below. If you go over there, you will get the entire recording in an audio format like a podcast. Check it out, support us, help us keep doing this. We really appreciate it. Anyways.
I feel bad for them, but I don't feel bad for them. No. Okay, in Superman 78, the first Superman, famously, you know, it did these incredible special effects. You'll believe a man can fly was the tagline, and they showed you Christopher Reeve flying, and holy cow, it was amazing. Mm-hmm. Before that, though, they show you not Christopher Reeve, they show you young Superman, young Clark Kent, running alongside a train. Mm-hmm. And it's this scene where he's running next to the train, and they had a very complicated setup. It looks really stupid.
Yeah.
In Superman, and it looks really stupid here, and I think there is no answer to this issue of how to make people running fast look good.
I think the problem is that the camera is locked on them, and then the background is not moving fast enough, and then they don't have weight. Instead, what they could have just done is have the camera lock on the environment and just have them go by in a blur.
It's then the lead up to the sparkling.
Yeah.
The entire thing, I mean, I was annoyed for the first 40 minutes of the movie or whatever, because no vampire stuff happened. Mm-hmm. And then when the vampire stuff started happening, I was like, oh yeah, actually, like, maybe I was happier with Anna Kendrick, to be honest.
Capping it with her saying, "You're beautiful," does not help at all. All it did is just made me laugh really, really hard. Because if you think about the logic behind this, right? Edward shows the fact that he sparkles in the sunlight, and he thinks like it's hideous or something. And she goes, "It's beautiful." So that means in the century or more that he's been alive, they've never tested this in front of anybody else. Like, turns out glowing like a diamond is actually really attractive to other people.
Honestly, I feel like the further you go back in, presumably like European, North American history, the more likely it is that being able to sparkle in the sun would like really pay off for you.
Yeah, you would be worshipped.
Yeah. I feel like you could really make something of this. Yeah, sparkling rich white people. That's like a thumbs up, generally.
Yeah, and you know, if I don't get out now, then I'm just gonna be stuck here like Mom.
The way we lead into this scene, it kind of does this like back and forth cutting where she's like planning the approach with her dad, with Edward, and then it cuts to the actual thing. But when she's talking to Edward, she's like, "What do you want me to say to him? I can't hurt him." And then in the ensuing conversation where she apparently intends not to hurt him, she just like shits on his entire way of life. Yeah. She's like, "What do you want me to do? Just like hang out with you? Like just getting food and like watching TV every night in this bullshit town with your bullshit life?"
Oh my!
Like, Jesus, lady. Like,
to anybody who's watching this and still feels connected to her train of thought, I mean, let me tell you, seriously, your parents want nothing more than just like watch TV and have food with you. It would make them so happy. Go do that right away.
And it's so low effort.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is sit in the chair and watch the TV.
Yeah, but
Do you know how much Law and Order SVU I struggled through with my grandfather? Why does he want to watch that show? I have no idea, but it made him happy. Also, just to finish contextualizing just how brutal this is, after they're driving away, after she's just, like, ruined her dad, she's like, what she reveals is that she told him the same thing her mom said while she was leaving him.
Oh, God.
And then Edward's like, it's the only way he would have let you go.
The more I would talk about this, the more he's giving me the sign that Edward is really just like the equivalent of an old guy grooming a young girl, separating her from her family.
Okay, if you say the facts of the story, I think what you just said is an inescapable conclusion.
Yeah, he's grooming her. That's
The
exactly
story is
what
that
it
a 108-year-old man posing as a high schooler This is the only thing I remembered of the movie. The baseball is my favorite part. I felt exactly the same way I did this time watching it as I did last time. This is the best part in the movie by like a huge, huge margin. For like 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes, I thought this movie is genuinely great. I cackled with delight at this baseball sequence. And I think it just does exactly what I wanted all the rest of the movie to do, which is make being a vampire seem sexy, exciting, fun, visceral, adrenaline pounding, intense. All of this stuff only happens in this scene. The rest of the time they're standing around being boring white people in fancy clothes. Yeah. But here, we're like, the camera comes alive, the cutting comes alive, the performances seem more energetic. It's just like the magnificent sequence in the middle of a terrible movie.
It's the only part of the movie that actually have fun. I agree. Okay, should we go on to the segment? How to make Twilight better love story than Twilight?
I've got two, because I've got Caroline's, and Caroline's is the actually good one, but I'll say mine first.
All right.
What I didn't like about this movie was that she was a boring high school student, because I felt like it made him really lame for being in high school, and they didn't have anything interesting to do with her, even though, like I said, the teen stuff was good. So I thought, what about, like, it's her first summer after high school? She can still be 17 so we can still have the pedophile plot, because that's what we want, apparently. But, so, after high school, her first summer, she moves out here, and then, like, same stuff, but just set it at, like, bars and beach parties, and, like, just get them out into some interesting things and have it, like, more in an adult world, because I think it would make so much more sense for the Cullens to be in the adult world than the teen world. And it could still be, like, young. It still could have appealed to the same age group. And it still could have had that feeling of, like, no, I don't date high school guys, I date, college guys or whatever. So that was my pitch. Right. However, Caroline actually has the pitch that is absolutely what the movie should have been.
Okay.
The movie starts with Bella learning about her dad, which she didn't know about earlier. She's always wondered about her features, and what she learns is that her dad is indigenous, and she is half native. And so she moves to Washington to, like, reconnect with that side of her heritage after learning about it for the first time after her mom goes away. And then she ends up in this, like, Romeo and Juliet situation because she's like involved in the group of people who will later turn out to be the werewolves and have a feud with the Cullens. She's seen, like, as one of them, and he's with the vampire people. And then it's like straight up Romeo and Juliet for the movie. Plus, we have a lot more space to explore, like, the indigenous myths and all that side, the Taylor Lautner stuff that is actually, like, the most interesting part of the movie. Anyway, and the lead doesn't have to be as pale as a vampire from the start of the movie. That's Caroline's pitch. I think it's a great one.
Yeah, no, that is really good.
Because Taylor Lautner tells the whole story about how their lore, like, intermingles with the vampire lore and stuff. And then instead of this, like, dumb story that has nothing to do with the plot, it would have actually been, like, a story, like, it's all becomes about Bella discovering this thing that she's a part of.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Which is how fantasy should work.
All right. Okay. So, that's it for this week's Twilight from 2008. Next week, we're continuing this shit show with the second Twilight. It's New Moon, right?
Yeah, New Moon.
Yeah, okay, cool. Twilight,
Same as
New
the
Moon,
Old Moon.
a year later, so that's not a good sign for a movie.
This was
if
the
it's
first
rushed.
one. I saw this in theater, and I saw this before I saw Twilight.
Okay, so we're gonna do Twilight, New Moon next. Yeah, stay tuned and press like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
The Cullens don't come here. Cut. What did your friends mean about the Cullens don't come here?